Hello everyone, and welcome to Tapped Out to Pro Wrestling. Just recently I had the pleasure of watching the match between FTR's Dax Harwood and the Dynamite Kid, Tommy Billington. Being a fan of his father, the original Dynamite Kid, it took me down this rabbit hole of watching as much of the Dynamite Kid as I possibly can. Which led me into another rabbit hole of checking out the World of Sport wrestling promotion in the United Kingdom. Now, I've always been a fan of the United Kingdom, but I've never really dipped my toes into watching much of World of Sport in the United Kingdom. So doing this series is going to give me exactly that, as well as teach you all about some of the many different faces of the World of Sport wrestling promotion. Checking out the World of Sport wrestling promotion had me going down a whole other rabbit hole of checking out some of the wrestlers of the promotion. And someone caught my eye who realistically, I believe, if it wasn't for this guy, many men wouldn't have gotten their start in the business. Such as The Undertaker, Joe Gacy, Bray Wyatt, Dexter Lumis, or maybe even Kane. Every creepy gimmick in wrestling today. Well, that's a bit of a stretch, but Kendo Nagasaki could very well be one of the very first, rather strange gimmicks in wrestling. Peter William Thornley, born the 19th of October 1941, started to fall in love with sports in the 1950s. When in school, he won various championships in wrestling, swimming, and shot put. After leaving school, he would take up judo with his sensei Kenshiro Abe. Peter would later become the British World Council's Judo World Champion at just 19 years old. He would also win the Society of Amit Weightlifters Heavyweight Championship 2 years in a row. He was aiming to represent Great Britain in judo in the Tokyo Games in the year 1964. But before he would get the chance to do so, he would lose his left index finger. But with this curse came a blessing. Because of this accident halting his original plans, he would join the Catch Riley's gym in Wigan, where he would learn catch wrestling under Billy Riley. Thornley would learn the skills of such catch wrestlers as Bob Robinson, Carl Gotch, Ernie Riley, Billy Robinson, Tony Book, and Wally Booth. According to his official website, the Kendo Nagasaki character is in fact a spirit guide and a sensei. That's what I say all my mental problems are too.
Well, now, obviously, tonight was another good night for Mr. Pay-Per-View Rob Van Dam. Yeah, I had a pretty brutal match. But come on, did that surprise anybody? I mean, did anybody bet against subscribing to the Tapped Out to Pro Wrestling YouTube channel? That would be a bad idea, right? You could learn from that viewer. Yeah, I know the world television title is already on the line, but you should decide to subscribe, dude. After you got beat by me, you could be just like everyone else. Hey, if you subscribe, I'll keep you around. I feel like I'll owe you the best quality content for many years. You could carry my bag or something. But no, I might not subscribe. I'm gonna watch another channel if I can't like this. Your subscription is my key to success. That's what makes me still the world television champion. That's what makes me the whole show. Oh, before you go anywhere, also, I'd like to special acknowledgement for Bill Alfonso. He subscribed to the channel as well.
Thornley discussed the relationship with his character in an interview for TV Times in 1976, in which he claimed the Nagasaki character was the spirit of a samurai who 300 years ago lived in the place that is now called Nagasaki, which he had contacted while in a trance state during meditation. On Friday the 13th, 1964, Kendo Nagasaki would make his debut. Decked out in a samurai mask with a long black robe and a gigantic samurai sword. He liked to portray himself as a dark force, and was now taking his anger out on all humanity. He had a few special moves: the forearm smash, a rib-crushing rolling fireman's carry. But most of the time, he concentrated on submission moves. He had strange samurai rituals, including a salt-throwing routine that he would do before every match. When removing the samurai mask, underneath he would have yet another mask, usually changing in color matching his gear for the night. When Thornley would tour Japan, he would be billed under the alternative name Mr. Guillotine, but still had the same visual image. Kendo Nagasaki made his ITV debut in May 1971 on the FA Cup Final Special Edition of World of Sport with a victory over Wayne Bridges. On December 1971, he would befriend a flamboyant gay manager by the name of Gorgeous George Gillette, who some believed this manager who wore boas and sequins and did all of the talking for Nagasaki was his lover in disguise. His darkness led to a lot of rumors. People said he had been disfigured in a fire. They thought he was another wrestler trying to portray a new image. It was hoped that he might be a member of the royal family. As to his silence, it was suggested that he had the voice of a girl. And because of his missing finger, it was hinted that this was from some cultish and bloody initiation ceremony at the behest of the Yakuza. Nagasaki was renowned for his strength. On one televised match, he lifted the 372-pound battling guardsman Shirley Crabtree, later known as Big Daddy, who we will also be talking about on this channel, up onto his shoulders, and then calmly walked over to a corner carrying him and finished the bout with his finishing move, the Kamikaze Crash. And then proceeding to walk out of the ring as Crabtree was being counted out. In December 1975, again facing Big Daddy on television, Nagasaki was successfully unmasked. Although he did win the bout, this would start a violent feud between the two. The unmasking occurred 2 years before he had an official ceremonial unmasking ceremony at the Civic Hall, Wolverhampton, in what was one of the most anticipated and most viewed moments in ITV's World of Sport. This man had one of the strangest looking rat tail bald head combos I've ever seen, and this gigantic star just square dead right in the middle of his forehead. Tattooed, by the way, by the looks of it. Hey man, if anybody knows about drip, it's my man Peter Thornley. Following an August 1978 Nagasaki win on television over Colin Joynson, British heavyweight champion Tony St. Clair entered the ring and announced that he was accepting a title challenge from the now unmasked and therefore eligible Nagasaki. However, before the match could take place, in 1978, he would retire on doctor's orders and began a new career in the rock management world. I will not be referring to the imposter King Kendo or the Japanese Nagasaki. Though I do have to mention, Nagasaki would return to wrestling in the years 1981 to 1982 in a few appearances in which the real Nagasaki would take on the notorious imposter King Kendo, Bill Clark, in a series of loser-lose mask matches, which saw Clark defeated and unmasked night after night. In December 1986, Thornley would make his long-awaited masked return to the ring at the London Hippodrome in the first ever disco ladder match with Clive Myers. Transmitted on ITV shortly after the new year as the main event of the first ever edition of ITV Wrestling, taped at an all-star wrestling show. By September of 1987, he went on to become the WWA World Heavyweight Champion after defeating Wayne Bridges. He would also form tag teams with Mark Rollerball Rocco, who we will also be talking about, and Blondie Barrett. Nagasaki and Barrett defeated the Golden Boys tag team of Robbie Brookside and Steve Regal when the Masked Man hypnotized Brookside to attack Regal. This too would lead to a long-running storyline with Nagasaki regularly using his powers to turn Brookside over to his side at live shows. In January 1989, George Gillette died of AIDS, and Lloyd Ryan became the brand new manager of Kendo Nagasaki. October 1991, he feuded with Giant Haystacks, and at one point was robbed of the world title after Giant Haystacks deliberately pulled off his mask, forcing him to abandon the match. Footage from this match was featured in the BBC Two documentary on Nagasaki Arena. Masters of the Canvas in 1993. Nagasaki and Lloyd Ryan would have a falling out, which would lead to Lloyd Ryan recruiting King Kendo for a fresh new Battle of the Kendos. Nagasaki, now managed by his personal assistant Lawrence Stevens, would soon abandon this storyline, as Kendo Nagasaki would retire yet again from the professional wrestling world to concentrate on the world of commerce. I'm not going to go into his various comebacks and whatnot, but the most recent match I did discover with Kendo Nagasaki in it pitted him in a tag team match where he teamed with his former partner, Blondie Barrett, in 2008. But on his YouTube channel, he is still currently producing content today. So for all I know, he could still be doing this. He could be back in the game. This is a wrestler who truthfully has so much history, but even with all this knowledge to this day, we are not quite sure how much of this is real and how much of this is fake. I'm sure we would all love to know how much of the rumors are real or fake, but really, nobody in the year 1971 was reaching that dark personality in the wrestling ring like Kendo Nagasaki was. We were genuinely not sure what to make of the spirit of Kendo Nagasaki, but Peter Thornley seems like a man who was very misunderstood. Everyone saw this strange man in a mask, missing a finger, and instantly thought, this guy must have some strange stories about him. So everyone made this lore of Kendo Nagasaki and mashed it together into the life of Peter Thornley. To the point that everyone even questioned the sexuality of the man. People wanted to know everything about Kendo Nagasaki, but Peter Thornley just didn't want to peel that back for everyone to see. Peter Thornley wanted to keep Kendo Nagasaki a mystery. Peter Thornley wanted to keep Kendo Nagasaki away from the world so everyone can keep guessing and keep making rumors and keep saying things that for all we know could very well not be true. If we never saw Kendo Nagasaki, who knows? Maybe people wouldn't have looked at The Undertaker the same way. Maybe people would have seen a guy like The Undertaker debut and have went, that's not a wrestler. But if it wasn't for somebody like Kendo Nagasaki, who peeled that back, who peeled back what it was to be a professional wrestler, and showed more of what it was to be that character, if it wasn't for that, who knows? Maybe we'd be looking at a completely different world today.